I'd always dreamt of owning a ranch. Maybe reading cowboy stories and riding my horse and imagining a herd of cattle in front of me was the reason. So the idea of going to Australia was a little silly because my wife at that time was Brazilian, so we went to Brazil instead to look for a ranch. We settled 165 kilometers south of the city of Porto Velho in the then territory of Rondônia. We'd farm responsibly, we'd employ local people, and we'd do our best to look after the land. Little did we know that what we were doing was wrong. I went to change the place, but the place changed me. I was told that there were forest people close by who'd never seen modern man or been seen by modern man. I had to think that one through. We learned to clear trees on only 20% of the land, leaving 80%, which is bad anyhow. So what's the point of ranching on bad land? The rainy season eroded our tracks. Malaria and hepatitis killed people. We caught poisonous snakes and sent them to the snake farm in São Paulo, and in return we got serum for curing anybody if they got bitten by a snake. Very useful that was, I can tell you. We sowed seed from the air, and when the first cattle stepped in, I was thrilled. Later, I picked up a baby toucan. We destroyed its nest. One of our men looked after it, and it was soon hopping about again. On another occasion, a sun bison displayed its beautiful plumage, thinking that I would be scared by it, but of course not. It also had had its nest destroyed. I went to FUNAI, the National Foundation for Indian in Porto Velho, and asked for advice. I was told there were probably two small tribes 20 kilometers behind us who had fled there when they'd refused to work on the Madeira-Mamre railway many years before. The FUNAI agent said that the best way to try and help was to stop rubber tappers penetrating through our land. Impossible on a 15-kilometer boundary. My moment of change came when I was stuck for 24 hours on a remote airstrip in the middle of the jungle. At the edge of the clearing was a group of indigenous people lying on their backs, firing arrows at the top of the tree. There must have been a monkey up there. Intrigued, I went over, raising my hand in a friendly salute. They all got off and ran off into the jungle. Flying back in our single-prop Cessna, we had to use our instruments to navigate through monster columns of smoke. I wondered if those same people would be watching the smoke and breathing it in. 2080 rule couldn't be right, could it, if it led to such destruction? I now believe that all jungles should be left alone, and the indigenous people, those that are left alive, that is, should be also left alone and to live the life that they want to lead. We had to sell our ranch, sadly, but many years later I went back to see what the new owners had done. They had mown the jungle like a lawn. Not even a mosquito bothered me. They asked me why I thought the river, where we used to bathe ourselves in the evenings, had dried up. I suggested that knocking down so much jungle had been the reason. Another said they'd shot 12 jaguars that year, and because they were eating the young calves. I then said, well, if you destroy their natural habitat, they're going to prey on easy kills like young calves. We never shot a jaguar. All we did was to see their footpads in the mud. I went back to the FUNAI compound. Several indigenous people were wandering about, some dressed in t-shirts and jeans, others with little on, but with a headdress of feathers on their heads. I could see their huts and simple palm-leafed roofed bungalows on one side. I was happy to see that FUNAI was doing a good job and that their founder, Marshal Rondon, would be proud. I asked an agent what had happened to the two tribes that lived behind our ranch. Looking out of the window, he pointed at a couple of indigenous people walking in the yard outside. But our biggest problem is where to relocate them now. Their original land is now covered with cattle and soya. I asked how I could help. He said, let people know what's happening. Shout it out aloud.